Around 2000 BC, deep in the dense green jungles of Mesoamerica, the earliest Maya communities began to take root. Families settled along rivers and fertile hillsides, drawn by rich soil and abundant water. They cultivated maize, beans, squash, and even cacao crops that would sustain them for generations and form the foundation of Maya culture. Life in these early villages was simple but deeply connected to the land. People worked together to plant, tend, and harvest their crops, sharing food and responsibilities among neighbors. Homes were small, made of thatch and wood, yet they formed the heart of a growing community. Rituals began to appear alongside daily life, as the Maya sought to honor the forces of nature that governed their survival: the sun, the rain, and the earth itself. Even in these earliest settlements, seeds were being sown not only for crops, but for a civilization that would one day build towering cities, monumental pyramids, and intricate temples. These humble beginnings laid the foundation for centuries of knowledge, art, and culture. A legacy that would eventually stretch across Mesoamerica, leaving an imprint that survives to this day. As the Maya villages grew, the people began to see the world around them not just as land to farm, but as a sacred landscape filled with spiritual meaning. Caves, mountains, rivers, and even ancient trees were believed to connect the living with powerful gods and ancestors. These natural features became sites for rituals, offerings, and ceremonies. Shaping the spiritual identity of the Maya, farmers would honor the rain gods before planting their crops, seeking blessings for fertile soil and bountiful harvests. Over time, religion and agriculture became inseparable, with seasonal cycles guiding both work and worship. Communities built small shrines near rivers or atop hills, where priests and elders performed rituals to maintain harmony with the divine forces of nature. These sacred practices laid the foundation for more elaborate ceremonial centers that would later rise across Mesoamerica. In every harvest, every offering, the Maya were learning to read the rhythms of the natural world, preparing themselves for the monumental achievements that would define their civilization in the centuries to come. As the centuries passed, Maya villages began to grow larger and more complex. With expanding populations, new leaders emerged to organize not only farming and food storage, but also the rituals that connected communities to the gods. These early chiefs began to gain prestige, their status reinforced by control over vital resources like maize, cacao, and water. At the same time, the Maya were not isolated trade networks stretched across regions, bringing in precious materials such as jade, obsidian, and salt. These goods were not just practical. They became symbols of wealth and power, helping leaders reinforce their authority. As villages became more structured, social hierarchies emerged. Some families held influence over land and trade, while others labored in the fields or crafted goods. This growing inequality set the stage for the first formalized chiefdoms, where political authority and religious power were intertwined. Communities learned that leadership meant responsibility over both the material and spiritual well-being of their people, a lesson that would guide the Maya as they moved toward building monumental ceremonial centers and, eventually, the great city-states of the classic era. As Maya villages continued to grow, they began evolving into more than just farming communities. Small settlements transformed into ceremonial centers, becoming the heart of both religious life and community gatherings. Sites like Nakbe rose in the lowlands, featuring early temples, plazas, and platforms that marked the first monumental architecture of the Maya. These structures were not built by a single ruler but through the efforts of entire communities, as families and neighbors worked together in large-scale projects that required coordination, skill, and shared purpose. Labor was organized around seasonal cycles, with planting and harvest seasons dictating construction schedules. These early centers were places where people could come together for festivals, rituals, and marketplaces, strengthening social bonds and collective identity. The emergence of ceremonial architecture marked a turning point for the Maya, from scattered villages to a society capable of planning, building, and organizing on a grand scale. In these early temples and plazas, the seeds of political authority, religious hierarchy, and urban life were planted, paving the way for the first great Maya cities that would dominate the classic period. Around 1000 BC, the Maya civilization reached a remarkable milestone with the rise of El Mirador, one of the first true cities in the Americas. Towering pyramids and vast plazas transformed the jungle landscape, signaling the growing power and sophistication of Maya society. Streets and causeways connected neighborhoods, plazas, and ceremonial centers, allowing people, goods, and ideas to flow across the city with surprising efficiency. El Mirador was more than just an architectural marvel. It became the political and religious heart of the early Maya world. Rulers presided over complex social and ceremonial life, directing both labor and ritual activities. Priests performed sacred ceremonies in the massive temples, while markets and workshops hummed with daily life. The scale of El Mirador reflects a society capable of organizing large workforces, planning urban layouts, and expressing religious and political authority through monumental construction. In many ways, El Mirador set the stage for the classic Maya cities that would later dominate the lowlands, proving that the Maya were capable of achieving urban and cultural brilliance long before the rise of Tikal, Copan, or Calakmul. As cities like El Mirador flourished, the Maya began to harness the power of knowledge to organize and record their world. They developed hieroglyphic writing, a sophisticated system of symbols that allowed them to document rituals, genealogies, and the deeds of their rulers. This written language became the backbone of Maya culture, preserving history for future generations. Alongside writing, the Maya created early versions of their calendars. The 260-day ritual calendar, guiding ceremonies and religious life, and the 365-day solar calendar, essential for agriculture and planning. These calendars were not only practical, but deeply connected to Maya cosmology, linking the cycles of the heavens to the rhythm of daily life. Mathematics also advanced during this period, including the revolutionary concept of zero, which enabled more precise calculations for trade, astronomy, and architecture. Together, writing, calendars, and mathematics reflected a culture increasingly capable of planning complex ceremonies, building monumental structures, and understanding the cosmos, setting the intellectual foundation for the golden age of the classic Maya cities that would follow. By 400 BC, Maya society had become increasingly organized around powerful ruling families. These lords claimed divine ancestry, presenting themselves as intermediaries between the gods and their people. This sacred connection justified their authority and helped maintain social order. Dynasties began to take shape, with rulers overseeing not only ceremonies and religious rituals, but also the collection of tribute, labor, and resources from their communities. Society grew more stratified. Nobles held political and religious power, artisans and scribes preserved cultural and intellectual traditions, while farmers and laborers supported the city through their work in the fields and on monumental construction projects. This emerging social hierarchy allowed the Maya to coordinate complex urban projects, defend their cities, and expand trade networks. With lineages and leadership firmly established, Maya society was ready to evolve into the grand city-states of the classic period, where rulers would leave behind a legacy of monumental architecture, art, and written records for generations to come. By 250 AD, the Maya were on the brink of a new era, the Classic Period, a time of immense cultural and political achievement. Monumental architecture now spread across Mesoamerica, with towering pyramids, grand palaces, and expansive plazas transforming the landscape. These impressive structures reflected not only religious devotion, but also the growing power of Maya rulers and their city-states. Writing, calendars, and dynastic kingship were firmly established, providing the tools to record history, plan rituals, and govern complex societies. The lessons learned from early villages, ceremonial centers, and pre-classic cities like El Mirador had laid the groundwork for a civilization capable of extraordinary achievements. With knowledge, social organization, and political structures in place, the Maya were poised to enter their golden age, a period when art, architecture, science, and trade would flourish across the lowlands and beyond. The stage was set for the rise of city-states like Tikal, Calakmul, and Copan, whose rulers would leave a legacy that continues to captivate the world today.